Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. Well, it is October and that means the season of fall is upon us. So I thought it would be fun to do a fall crockpot video for you guys. I'm going to be sharing several delicious recipes in this video. I'm going to be making a buffalo wing dip in the crockpot as well as some smothered pork chops with apples, a new recipe that I'm trying for Spanish beef stew that turned out delicious, as well as a white chicken chili. So let's get started. So we're going to make smothered pork chops with apples, which I think is a perfect fall slow cooker recipe. This recipe, once again, is out of my complete slow cooker cookbook by America's Test Kitchen. So the ingredients that you'll need for this are some pork chops. The recipe specified like thin cut bone-in pork chops, but I had these really thick cut loin chops in my freezer and I want to get them used up. So I think they'll work just fine for this. I have 2 apples. We're going to be peeling those, cutting them up and sauteing them with the onions before we add it to the slow cooker. I have 1 onion, 2 tablespoons of butter. I have some herbs here, some fresh thyme, some parsley, and a dried bay leaf. I have some flour, salt and pepper, and then some Worcestershire sauce, apple cider vinegar, and some chicken broth. So I've got my chopped apples and onions in the skillet with my butter. So I've just got this over medium heat. I'm gonna saute this for about 10 minutes just until everything is soft. Okay, so my apples and onions are soft. I'm gonna go ahead and add my 2 tablespoons of flour. Just stir that around a little bit. And then I'm gonna add my chicken broth. I'm gonna make a mess. This is about 1 cup of chicken broth. Okay, so I'm just gonna stir this up until there are no lumps left and transfer this to the crock pot. I've got my apples and onions in here. I stirred in the fresh thyme and Worcestershire sauce. I still feel like I say that wrong every single time. Who knows? All right, I'm gonna put my pork chops on top of here. It just says to kind of nestle them on the top. I need to finish seasoning those with salt and pepper. Pork chops are in. I'm gonna go ahead and put my bay leaf in there. I was wondering if I forgot the apple cider vinegar, but no, that goes in at the end. So I'm gonna put a lid on this. You can cook this on low for 8 hours. I'm actually gonna cook it on high for about 4 hours because that's what time I have today, but I'll share with you when it's done. All right, so the pork chops are done. I'm actually gonna go ahead and remove these to a pan because I'm actually prepping this meal for later in the week. So I think I'm just gonna put them in the pan and then finish the sauce in here and then just kind of pour the apples over the top. Pork chops are huge. All right, so I've got my parsley that is minced up, fresh parsley, and then I've just got a cap full of apple cider vinegar because it just calls for a teaspoon. I'm gonna stir this up. I'm probably gonna give this sauce a taste just to make sure it doesn't need salt or anything, and then pour it over the pork chops. All right, so here is how the apple smothered pork chops turned out. These are so good. I think next time I would definitely try it with the bone-in chops, but they did work well with these thick cut ones. I wouldn't use boneless, like thin cut chops, because I think those would dry out too quickly, but the sauce on this is really, really good. I think this would be awesome with some mashed potatoes, which I think is how we will have it. I think you could also serve it with egg noodles. It would be really good too, but highly recommend this recipe. It turned out delicious. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to share with you guys that is one of my favorite fall crockpot recipes is buffalo chicken dip. And you guys have probably either heard of this or made this before, but this recipe is new to me. So we're going to try this and see how it works. You'll need some cooked chicken. You can use canned chicken. I've used that before for this recipe and it turns out great. You can shred a rotisserie chicken. You can cook up some chicken breast, whatever you want. I have these pre-cooked chicken breasts, so I'm just going to chop these up. You need about 2 cups of that, about 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. Optional, you can add blue cheese to this. Adam doesn't like that, so I'm not going to add that. You also need 2 packages of cream cheese. I'm using the 1/3 less fat, some sour cream, some ranch dressing, some Frank's Red Hot, And then here are my tiny little green onions that I'm regrowing in the fridge, but we're just gonna add those at the end to kind of top it. So I'm gonna save those for later. So the main difference with this recipe than the ones that I've made before for buffalo chicken dip is that this one is sort of a layered dip in the crock pot. So what I have in here is my 2 blocks of cream cheese that I softened, and then I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of ranch dressing. I suppose also you could use blue cheese dressing if you wanted to, and then 1/2 cup of sour cream. And this is also the step in which you would add the crumble blue cheese if you're gonna use that. But the sour cream is also an extra addition that I haven't ever used before. I was gonna get the mixer out, but I'm gonna see if I can kind of use my elbow grease to stir this together. All right, I'm not about to mix this up with my hands, so I'm gonna use my hand mixer. Okay, so here's what that mixture looks like. Much easier to use a mixer. So I don't typically like to use crock pot liners. Don't ask me why, it's not my thing, I don't know. But I am gonna use one with this recipe because if you have ever made the buffalo chicken dip in a crock pot, you know that it can get very difficult to clean out of there, even if you spray it. So we're just gonna bite the bullet and use this one. So I'm gonna put this layer in the bottom, and this is one of my smaller crock pots. I'm not exactly sure the size. I think it's a 3-quart maybe. I would not, unless you're gonna double this recipe, use a larger slow cooker, just because your layer on the bottom is gonna be too thin and it's probably gonna burn. Okay. And by the way, I'll have all of these recipes typed out down below or linked along with a shopping list. Okay, so the next thing that I'm gonna do is put the chicken layer on. So it looks like, well, I need about 2 cups of shredded chicken or cooked chicken. So I'm gonna need about 3 chicken breasts, it looks like. So I'm gonna add that in next and get this other one chopped up. One thing I was gonna mention, which I think I've shared this before in my grocery hauls, but Walmart does sell pre-shredded rotisserie chicken now, and it's actually really good. I've purchased that kind before, and then they also have a fajita seasoned one and a barbecue seasoned one. It's super convenient, especially if you have kids like mine who want to fix stuff for themselves. Then they kind of just warm it up in a tortilla, quick barbecue chicken wrap. So I've got this crock pot set on low, and it says it's going to cook for about 3 hours. So I'm going to add in the other cup of chicken, just kind of try and distribute that as evenly as possible. And then I've got 1/2 cup of buffalo wing sauce. I like the Frank's Red Hot, but you can use any kind you want. I'm going to drizzle that over. And then the last step is just to put the cheese on. All right, so I added 1 cup of cheese to the top of that. So we're gonna shut this. And then again, this is on low. This crock pot it's not my favorite because it has like these pre-settings and you can only do it for like certain increments. But we're gonna let this go on high for 3 hours and then we'll see what it looks like. And usually I serve this with tortilla chips and chicken and a biscuit crackers. All right, so our dip is done. I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like. I went ahead and followed the recipe and I topped it with some extra cheese and some green onions. It smells really good. I'm trying to decide whether I want to mix it up or not because I feel like it kind of needs to be mixed up to be like evenly distributed. But anyway, I'm going to plate it up and then I will taste it and I'll tell you what it's like. Okay, so I put some of this into a bowl and I tasted it and it's really good. I would definitely recommend this recipe. The difference to me was the addition of the sour cream, and I feel like it actually makes it a lot better. So normally you would serve this with tortilla chips, or we also have it a lot of times with chicken and a biscuit crackers, which if you haven't tried it yet, definitely do. But I think this makes perfect addition to like your football party or anything. And I would recommend adding more green onions than I did because I think that would enhance the flavor. I just didn't have enough on hand. So the next recipe that I'm going to share in this fall crockpot video is a Spanish beef and red pepper stew. So I have made beef stew a lot, but I've never used this recipe, so I'm excited to try it. This is the cookbook I'm using for this particular recipe. It's Milk Street Fast and Slow. I'll link it down below. I'll also have all of the recipes and shopping list linked down below as well. This particular cookbook actually is made for an Instant Pot, and basically you can either cook things fast or slow. I'm going to kind of modify this so that I can make it in a crock pot, but here are the ingredients that you'll need. I have some beef stew meat. This is about 2 to 3 pounds. Some salt and pepper, some roasted red bell peppers, about 1/2 cup of those, some fresh rosemary, 1 tomato. The recipe calls for a shallot. I don't have that on hand, so I'm gonna use red onion, 10 cloves of garlic, some lemon, 2 tablespoons of flour, some sweet paprika, olive oil, and then some prosciutto. Okay, so I chopped up my tomato and seeded that. I sliced the red onion. I chopped up the garlic. So I tried something different with my garlic. I've seen before where people put the garlic cloves in a mason jar and shake it up and it peels the garlic. That did not work for me. I have a garlic peeler that's like a little, like a rubber tube, and you roll the garlic in there. That works really well. It's dirty right now, so that's why I didn't use it. But anyway, I also cut up the prosciutto. If you've never cut prosciutto before, it can be kind of difficult to cut through, so make sure you have a really sharp knife. So we're gonna go ahead and saute these ingredients together. I've just got some olive oil in this pan. So we're just gonna saute this for about 5 minutes until everything gets soft. What I was gonna say is the thing I really like about using some of these different slow cooker cookbooks is that they really use like fresh ingredients, like fresh whole food. I mean, I can get on board with a can of cream of chicken soup any day, but sometimes I feel like that's a lot of what some of these like slow cooker recipes are, is just like dumping cans into a slow cooker, which is totally fine. I mean, I have done that many a time myself, but I've really been enjoying using some of these cookbooks to cook different things and just like use fresh whole ingredients. So to this, I'm gonna add my minced fresh rosemary. I think if you didn't want to purchase fresh rosemary, because I know herbs can be expensive, definitely just use dried. And then I'm gonna stir in some paprika as well. So since I'm adapting this to a slow cooker rather than an Instant Pot, obviously the Instant Pot has the saute function. So at the end, it directs you to whisk the flour in with some of the drippings and then turn it back up, you know, so that you can thicken it. My crock pot's not going to be able to do that, so I'm just going to go ahead and add flour now, and that should be fine. It will obviously thicken as it cooks. All right, so I added the roasted red peppers also and transferred it to the slow cooker. I've got my beef here. I salted and peppered that really well. So now the only thing left to do is just kind of stir this together and turn it on. I'm gonna cook this on high for about 4 to 5 hours. You could also cook it on low for 9 to 10 hours. All right, so here is our beef stew. After it's done cooking, the beef is super tender. I squeezed in the lemon juice and I went ahead and boiled up just some plain egg noodles and tossed those with butter. You could also have this with mashed potatoes or rice. So I'm gonna plate this up and I'll show you guys what it looks like. All right, so here's what this looks like plated up. I definitely recommend this recipe. It is a lot more flavorful than like a traditional beef stew because of like the paprika and all the other seasonings that are in there. So definitely give this a try. I just have it on some egg noodles and I dusted a little bit of dried parsley on the top. Yum. Okay, so we're gonna make some white chicken chili. I always feel like obviously chili is a perfect fall recipe. However, I think sometimes some of us get tired, I know I do, of just making regular chili. So I'm gonna use my America's Test Kitchen, the complete slow cooker cookbook. I'll link this down below. I really like this cookbook, and I'm gonna make this white chicken chili. So this has white beans in it and chicken, and it's sort of a fresher take on like a ground beef chili. One thing that I actually forgot that I need to run to the store and grab is some fresh cilantro. I thought that I threw it in my cart and I can't find it anywhere. Don't you hate when that happens? So this really has minimal ingredients. What you'll need is some extra virgin olive oil, some garlic. I have some coriander and some cumin, 2 cans of white kidney beans or cannellini beans, 1 can of either white or yellow hominy, some pickled jalapenos, some fresh jalapenos, onion, salt and pepper, about 3. The recipe calls for chicken thighs, but I already have these chicken breasts thawed out, so that's what I'm going to use for this. And then 3 cups of chicken broth. I'm going to reconstitute my own. I'm just using this Better Than Bouillon. This is actually a vegetarian chicken base, but it's really good anyway. So the first thing that we're actually going to do is puree some chicken broth along with some rinsed and drained hominy to thicken the soup. In my blender container, I have 2 cups of water and then 2 teaspoons of the chicken base. I'm going to put in this hominy. It's 1 can that I rinsed and drained. Okay, I'm just using my NutriBullet, so hopefully this is okay. I didn't want to dirty my big blender. Okay, so this is what that looks like pureed. I'm just gonna put that into the slow cooker. That's gonna become part of the soup base. The recipe says that it will help thicken the soup and also give it kind of like a corn flavor. All right, so here's my chicken. I took it out of the package, I pat it dry, seasoned it with salt and pepper, and I've got a nonstick skillet over here just heated with a little bit of olive oil. So I've said this before and I'll say it again. Sometimes, you know, I always feel like America's Test Kitchen recipes are really good. Sometimes I just feel like they're a little bit fussy, but I'm gonna follow the recipe anyway. So normally, you know, I would probably just put this chicken in the slow cooker with the soup and, you know, shred it when it was done and everything would be fine. But the recipe is directing me to brown it first. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Once it's brown, I'm gonna transfer it to the slow cooker. Obviously, I'm not cooking it through. I'm just getting a little bit of color on it. And while that is cooking, I'm gonna chop up my veggies. So onion and jalapeno. All right, so I've got my onions and my jalapenos sauteing in the pan that I removed the chicken from. So I'm gonna add my garlic. Always add that last so that you don't want it to burn. About 6 cloves worth. I usually just eyeball that. And then in this bowl right here, I have my cumin and my coriander. So I'm just gonna also add that and let the spices toast a little bit. Again, I feel like if you were strapped for time, you could just add this all to the slow cooker and cook it together, but I'm gonna follow the recipe. Okay, and then this is the remaining 1 cup of chicken broth I have. So I'm gonna add that to the skillet just to make sure that I can get all the bits off the bottom. And then I'm gonna add this to the slow cooker with the chicken and the hominy puree. So I've got everything in there. I've got my chicken and the broth and the veggies and the seasonings. I'm gonna add my 2 cans of cannellini beans that I've rinsed. If you can't find those, just add any kind of white bean, or you could even add regular beans if you wanted to. I guess the good thing about adding everything to here hot is that it's gonna come to temperature faster. So the recipe directs to cook this on low for 4 to 5 hours, but I don't have that long. I just have like maybe 2.5 hours before dinner. So I'm just gonna put it on high and we'll let that cook until the chicken is tender. All right, so our chicken is finished cooking and I'm gonna go ahead and just remove the chicken breasts to a cutting board and let them cool down slightly, and then I'll go ahead and shred the meat and put it back into the soup. Okay, so I stirred my chicken into the soup and I'm gonna go ahead and add my cilantro. You wanna wait till the end to add that because it's gonna lose a lot of its flavor if you cook it in the broth. So I'm gonna give this a stir and then I'm just gonna take out a spoonful and like a very small spoonful and stick it in a bowl, let it cool, and I'm gonna taste it and see what it needs. If it needs more chicken broth, more salt, more pepper, more spice, whatever. Okay, so I did add some extra salt to the white chicken chili. I thought that it needed it. And after I served the kids theirs, I went ahead and added some of this, the juice from this jalapeno pickled pepper jar, because I thought that it could use a little bit more spice. Obviously you can add more or less depending on, you know, what you want. I'm gonna go ahead and dish this up and show you what it looks like. It's delicious. All right, so here is our completed white chicken chili. This turned out so good. I definitely recommend this recipe for fall. It's perfect for chilly nights or if you have a football game. If you're gonna feed a crowd, I would definitely double it, but we have the soup in there. Super simple ingredients. On the top, I added some chopped red onion, some cilantro, a little bit of pepper jack cheese, and 1 jalapeno. You could add crackers to this, or tortilla chips would be really good, crushed up, sour cream, avocado, kind of the sky's the limit, but this is definitely a keeper and I will definitely be making this at some point again.
All right, so that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget, I will have all of the information on the shopping list and recipes down below, so make sure you check that out and let me know in the comments which one of these recipes you would like to try. I always love getting your feedback. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next video.